My name isn't important. What matters is what I saw. For years, I've tried to convince myself it wasn't real, that the things I witnessed in that hospital were just a product of exhaustion or stress. But when you work the night shift, reality blurs. The human mind starts to fill the silence with things that shouldn't exist. I used to think St. Augustine Medical Center was just an old, forgotten building, a decaying shell of what it once was. I thought I was alone there. I was wrong. What I'm about to tell you isn't a story. It's a record, my confession. If you ever find yourself driving past the edge of town and see the flicker of hospital lights through the fog, keep driving. Don't stop. Because St. Augustine never really closed. I used to think hospitals were the safest places in the world. That's what I told myself the first time I clocked in for the night shift at St. Augustine Medical Center. The irony is that St. Augustine hadn't admitted a real patient in over 15 years. Technically, the hospital had been shut down after a chemical leak in the East Wing. The company that owned it had since turned the site into a storage facility for medical records and old equipment. My job was simple: keep the lights on patrol every hour and report any trespassers. They told me the security rotation was a formality. Nobody came here anymore. But on my first night around 2:17 a.m., I heard the intercom click to life. The system wasn't even supposed to work. It had been disconnected years ago. All staff to operating Theater B, a woman's voice said. Calm, routine. I froze. The intercom hissed for a second, then went silent. I tried to laugh it off. Maybe it was a leftover recording, or maybe some power surge triggered the old speaker system. I even radioed the main office, but the line crackled with static and cut out. When I passed by the nurse's station an hour later, I noticed the operating Theater B sign hanging crooked from the ceiling, as if someone had brushed past it recently. By my third night, I'd memorized the hospital's layout. The corridors were endless sterile white paint, turned a sickly yellow with time. Every sound echoed the hum of fluorescent lights, the groan of air vents, the quiet tap of dripping water. In the west wing, behind a locked steel door, was the records room, a place I wasn't supposed to enter. The supervisor said it contained archived files for the old St. Augustine patients, and that it wasn't my concern. But that night, I found the door ajar. Inside, rows upon rows of filing cabinets stretched into darkness. The air was colder than the rest of the building. My flashlight beam landed on a single open folder on the desk, yellowed paper curling at the edges. Patient Clara Hawthorne, room 3B, status deceased. The chart ended abruptly. No cause of death, no date. Just a shaky signature from someone named Dr. Raymond Vale. I heard the intercom again. All staff to room 3B. This time the voice was clearer, and it used my name. The corridors seemed longer that night. Every step I took echoed behind me, like someone was following just a few feet away. Room 3B was in the pediatric wing, a place that, according to the blueprints, didn't even exist anymore. Half the wing had been sealed off after the leak, but the double doors were open when I arrived. The room inside was immaculate, fresh white sheets. A heart monitor blinking faintly in the dark, though the hospital hadn't had power in that section for years. The bed was occupied. A girl lay there, no older than 10, skin pale eyes, half-open chest, rising so faintly I thought I imagined it. Clara, I whispered before I could stop myself. Her eyes moved. Just a flicker. Then the monitor flatlined, but instead of silence, the intercom crackled again, louder this time. "She's waiting for you." I turned to run, but the door slammed shut. I didn't quit. I should have. Instead, I told myself there had to be an explanation. The mind plays tricks in places like this. Darkness, isolation, old machinery. I went back at the next night with a plan. I checked the blueprints, traced the old wiring, and proved to myself that everything had a reason. In the administrative office, I found a stack of old staff rosters. There it was, again, Dr. Raymond Vale, Chief of Surgery, 1983-1990. I looked up his name online on my phone, but there was nothing. Not a single record of his existence. In his desk drawer beneath a layer of dust was a single cassette tape. The label read, "Patient Hawthorne Final Procedure." I don't know why I played it. Curiosity, maybe. Guilt, static, then breathing. Then a man's voice, low, deliberate. "She won't stop talking about the lights. Says they come through the walls, that they tell her things. I've begun the final stage of treatment. If this fails, we'll have to contain the source. Contain the source." I stopped the tape when I realized the background noise wasn't just static. It was the same hum I heard every night from the vents above my desk. I decided to leave. I told my supervisor I was done, that the place was unsafe. He told me there was no east wing, that the hospital had never had one. But that couldn't be right. I'd seen it boarded hallways, sealed doors marked with radiation warnings. I'd walked past them. That night, I went back one last time just to see. The boards were gone. The air was freezing. The smell of antiseptic was overpowering. Each door I passed had a small glass window. Inside, beds lined the walls, everyone occupied. Figures lying perfectly still, covered by thin white sheets. At the end of the hall stood a single operating table under a flickering light. Instruments laid out neatly beside it. Someone was humming. I knew that melody. It was the same one Clara had been whispering when I found her. When I turned the corner, I saw him. A man in a long white coat back, turned hands slick with something dark. "Dr. Vale," I said, before I could stop myself. He didn't move, but the humming stopped. And then, in that voice I'd heard on the tape, he said, "You shouldn't be here." I woke up in the security office. No idea how I got there. My uniform was stained, my flashlight broken. The CCTV monitors showed only static, except one. Camera 12, operating theater B. The feed showed me lying on the operating table chest, rising slowly. The same faint beep of a monitor. I froze, watching myself breathe. Then I saw movement behind me on the screen. Dr. Vale leaned into view. He looked older now, face gaunt, eyes hollow. He adjusted a mask over his mouth, reached for a scalpel, and looked directly into the camera. The feed cut out. I don't remember leaving the hospital. The next thing I knew, it was daylight, and I was standing in the parking lot. The building behind me looked dead again. Windows, shattered roof, collapsed in places. When I tried to tell the police, they said St. Augustine had been condemned for over 20 years. No electricity, no staff, no power grid. They found my time card in the office, but it was dated April 12th, 1989. I don't sleep much anymore. Sometimes when the world is quiet, I hear that intercom hiss to life, even though I'm miles away. All staff to operating theater B. Last week, a package arrived at my door. No return address. Inside was a hospital ID badge, my name photo, and the words, "St. Augustine Medical Center, Security Division." The issue date was next week. I keep telling myself, it's a prank, that someone found the old badge and made a copy. But last night, I woke to the faint hum of fluorescent lights, the smell of antiseptic. When I looked toward my bedroom door, the red glow of an exit sign flickered above it, the kind they used in the hospital halls. And from the other side of the door, I heard a little girl's voice. "She's waiting for you. I've told you everything. I've replayed those nights in my head 1,000 times, hoping to find some rational explanation. But there isn't one. Sometimes when the world is quiet, I still hear the soft hum of fluorescent lights. I still smell the antiseptic. And every now and then, the intercom whispers my name. Maybe this is just what happens when you stare into the dark long enough it starts to recognize you. Or maybe I never really left that hospital. Maybe I'm still lying on that table, breathing in the cold air, waiting for the scalpel to touch my skin again. If you ever get the call to cover a shift at a place that shouldn't exist, don't go. No paycheck is worth finding out who or what is waiting behind those doors.